What if some common health checkups, the ones usually seen as a really good idea, could actually put your life at risk after a certain age? Sounds strange, right? But the truth is, not all screenings, not all tests are harmless for older adults. Today, our mission is to take a really close, honest look at 3 specific health checkups that, well, seniors might be better off avoiding in many cases. We'll explore why they're commonly recommended, the hidden dangers, and maybe some better alternatives. Now, this isn't about creating fear. It's really about empowering you with knowledge, giving you confidence for health choices that truly support you after 70. So we're diving into rethinking routine colonoscopies, the misconception around annual full body scans, and reconsidering routine cardiac stress tests. Let's get started. Okay, so let's unpack this first one. Colonoscopies. They've been hailed as the gold standard for preventing colon cancer for ages, and for good reason, right? They save countless lives. But when we talk about folks over 70, the conversation, it shifts, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. What's a life-saving procedure maybe in your 50s or 60s can, beyond a certain age, maybe around 70, 75, especially if you don't have symptoms or strong family history, it can become a real source of unnecessary risk, stress too, and sometimes it even leads to hospitalization. The procedure itself, it seems routine, but it's not a small thing for an older body.
Right. What are the kind of primary physical challenges that really increase with age when you're talking about a colonoscopy?
Well, okay, think about the bowel prep first. You have to drink these huge volumes of, powerful laxatives, and that can lead to pretty severe dehydration. Also, dangerous electrolyte imbalances. For seniors, these imbalances can seriously mess with heart rhythm, brain function. It can lead to confusion, dizziness, and that increases the risk of falls, especially if someone lives alone.
That's a huge point.
And then there's the sedation. Older bodies, they just metabolize medications more slowly. Their brains are more sensitive to sedatives. So this can result in something called postoperative cognitive dysfunction, basically lingering confusion, memory problems, maybe brain fog that hangs around for weeks, even months.
Wow, weeks or months?
Yeah, it's a big concern for keeping that mental sharpness staying independent.
That's already a lot to think about just for the procedure itself. But you mentioned something maybe even more insidious than those immediate physical things. What else should we be aware of?
Right. Stepping back a bit, a major worry is the risk of overdiagnosis and also what we call the time horizon of benefit. See, colonoscopies find these polyps, right? But many are very slow growing. They might take 10, even 15 years to potentially become cancerous.
Okay.
So for someone in their 70s or 80s, especially if they've had clean screenings before, the chance of those polyps actually becoming dangerous in their remaining lifespan is, frankly, extremely low. But finding even a small, probably harmless polyp, that can just ignite panic. And that often kicks off this whole cascade of unnecessary follow-up stuff. Biopsies, repeat scopes, sometimes even partial bowel removals, all chasing something that likely never would have caused any harm. So when the potential complications, things like bleeding or even a bowel perforation, which is rare but serious, when those risks start to significantly outweigh that tiny potential benefit for longevity, well, prevention can accidentally become harm.
It really makes you think. I remember a friend, George, 82 years old, sharp guy, active, no digestive issues at all. But he got talked into a routine colonoscopy. The prep just wiped him out, severe dehydration. And after the procedure, he was so groggy, so confused, he fell at home. Fractured his hip, months in rehab, huge medical bills, unbelievable stress. And the kicker.
The scope found absolutely nothing.
That's heartbreaking. Fortunately, not uncommon. And then there was Eileen, 78, retired teacher. She'd had clean colonoscopies at 68 and 73. Doctor suggested, just one more at 78. She agreed. During the procedure, her colon was accidentally perforated, a known complication, but devastating.
Yeah, very serious.
Urgency surgery, a month in the hospital. She never really got her energy back, lost a lot of independence. Both of them just wish someone had really laid out the trade-offs.
Exactly. And these stories, they just underscore a crucial point. Medicine's evolving. What used to be standard practice for everyone needs rethinking for different age groups. For people over 70 without symptoms, it's perfectly reasonable, actually wise, to decline a routine colonoscopy. And there are alternatives now, safer, non-invasive stool tests that are quite effective for screening.
Right, those FAT tests and things.
Exactly. We have to stop this assumption that more testing always equals better care. Because after 70, honestly, better care often means fewer interventions. It means more thoughtful choices, focusing on preserving your quality of life. You're not neglecting your health by being cautious. You're actually honoring it.
That's a really powerful way to put it. Honoring your health. If you're finding these insights valuable, maybe pause for a second, drop a comment below. Let us know you're here. We genuinely love to hear your thoughts or experiences. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And maybe share this deep dive with someone you think might benefit. Your support really helps us keep creating this kind of content. Okay, next up, let's talk about the allure of the annual full body scan. It sounds so proactive, doesn't it? This idea of a machine seeing everything head to toe, catching hidden issues early, sounds like the ultimate smart prevention.
It really does sound appealing in theory. But the surprising truth is that for seniors over 70, these powerful scans, CTs, MRIs, they can actually be more of a curse than a blessing sometimes. The intention seems good, right? Proactive. But these scans are designed to pick up everything. And I really mean everything.
Everything.
Yeah, including countless tiny, harmless abnormalities that would likely never affect your health or how long you live.
So these incidental findings you mentioned,
Yeah.
what kind of impact do they actually have on people?
Well, looking at the bigger picture, these incidental findings, they can quickly feel like little ticking time bombs in your mind. You know, a small nodule here, a little shadow there, and suddenly, bam, you're thrown onto this like medical merry-go-round.
Merry-go-round, yeah.
Follow-up appointments, biopsies, specialists, chasing something that maybe probably never mattered. And this matters even more after 70 because, well, the older body just doesn't bounce back as fast.
Right.
A biopsy that might have been straightforward at 45, now it could lead to a collapsed lung, maybe a serious infection, weeks of recovery. Even just lying still for an MRI can be physically exhausting or painful with older joints. And beyond the physical stuff, the emotional toll, the financial toll, it's huge. Seniors often end up carrying this heavy burden, worrying about what might be wrong. It drains their peace of mind, their resources, instead of letting them enjoy the good health they actually have.
That emotional toll is so key and often overlooked. I remember hearing about Betty, 78, vibrant, active woman, no health complaints at all. She went to a health fair, got offered a discounted full body scan. It found this tiny lesion on her kidney. Tiny. Caused no issues, likely never would have.
Okay.
But just hearing the word lesion, it sparked panic. Within a month, she was having surgery to remove it.
Oh my goodness.
The aftermath. Months of recovery, her energy levels plummeted, lingering complications that never really went away, all for something that probably would have just stayed quiet forever.
That's a classic case. Medically, we call it overdiagnosis. Emotionally, it's just unnecessary fear. And financially.
Draining, I bet. Especially since insurance rarely covers these screening scans unless there's a clear medical reason, right?
Exactly right. Many seniors pay out of pocket, hoping they're buying peace of mind. But what they often buy is basically a ticket into a system that might never stop testing them. At this stage of life, real responsibility often means learning to trust your body more, listening to how you feel day to day, recognizing that not every little shadow on a scan deserves your energy, your fear, or frankly, your money. It's about prioritizing peace, being present, not endlessly chasing some idea of perfection.
Okay, let's pivot now to heart health, the treadmill stress test. For decades, it's been the go-to for checking for heart disease, especially in older adults. The logic seems pretty straightforward. Push your heart, see how it does under pressure. But you're saying this logic, especially for seniors, can really backfire.
That's exactly right. When we look at people over 70, this tool, which can be useful, becomes much more questionable, sometimes actually dangerous. Routine cardiac stress tests, particularly in seniors without symptoms, often give false positives.
False positives, meaning they suggest a problem that isn't actually there.
Precisely. The results look like there's a heart problem, but really the heart might be perfectly fine for that person's age. See, these misleading results happen because as we age, our cardiovascular system naturally changes. Arteries stiffen a bit, blood pressure might fluctuate more, electrical patterns in the heart can shift.
Normal aging, basically.
Mostly normal aging changes, yeah. None of it necessarily means disease, but a stress test. It often doesn't differentiate those changes from real pathology, so it triggers this cascade of fear and then, inevitably, more invasive testing.
Okay, so talk about that cascade. What does that actually look like? What are the real risks involved?
Well, when you get a borderline or abnormal stress test result, the usual next steps involve things like angiograms, cardiac catheterizations, and in some cases that leads to putting in stents or even bypass surgery.
Wow, okay.
And these are not minor procedures. They carry significant risks for seniors. Things like bleeding complications, kidney injury from the contrast dye they use, stroke is a risk, dangerous drops in blood pressure.
Yeah.
Recovering from these surgeries is also just much harder for an older body. Complications tend to multiply. So what starts as a seemingly simple treadmill test can end up leading to months of recovery, hospital stays, a really significant hit to quality of life.
It sounds like a true slippery slope that could dramatically change someone's later years.
Yeah.
It reminds me of George, 74, retired bus driver, no chest pain, no shortness of breath, no fatigue, just a routine physical. His doctor, just to be safe, ordered a stress test. Results came back, borderline. Next thing you knew, he's having an angioplasty for a blockage that, remember, hadn't caused him a single symptom.
Right.
Within a month, George develops this severe infection, ends up in the ICU, spends the next 6 months in and out of rehab. His quality of life just never fully recovered. You have to ask, was that treadmill worth it?
A really tough question.
And my own grandfather, Harold, he was 76, feeling fine, playing with us grandkids.
Yeah.
Annual checkup, routine stress test shows a minor abnormality. Leads to a cardiac catheterization. It finds non-obstructive plaque, meaning it wasn't really blocking blood flow significantly.
Okay, so not critical.
Not critical, but they placed a stent anyway. Then he had complications from the blood thinners needed for the stent, internal bleeding, hospital 3 months recovery. Just wow.
These stories, they really highlight a critical point. Many leading heart specialists, geriatric associations, they now strongly recommend against routine stress tests in older adults who don't have symptoms. The evidence just isn't there. It doesn't show that it reduces heart attacks or lowers mortality for people without symptoms.
So if you feel fine,
if you're not having active signs like chest discomfort, shortness of breath, doing minimal things, unexplained fatigue, there's often no real benefit to the test, and there's significant potential for harm. Real wisdom in this season of life means listening closely to your body, focusing on maintaining your independence, avoiding that kind of medical overreach that can take more than it gives. Instead of chasing every tiny potential issue, prioritize the fundamentals,
yeah,
daily walks, balanced meals, staying connected socially, managing stress effectively.
the basics.
The basics, those are the things that truly support your heart health after 70. Not necessarily machines or interventions designed for younger bodies. What we need most, I think, is discernment. It's the courage to sometimes say no to something just because it's available.
So wrapping this all up, what does it really mean? Growing older doesn't mean growing helpless, not at all. If anything, maybe it's the time in life when we finally gain the wisdom to actually question the system a bit.
That's a great way to put it. In a world that often glorifies more checkups, more screenings, more pills, sometimes the bravest and honestly, the most beneficial choice is actually doing less. But not out of neglect, right? It's out of a deep, informed understanding. Understanding your body, your values, your personal goals for living well. Healthcare in your 70s and beyond, it really should be a conversation about what truly matters to you. How do you want to live your remaining years? What risks are you genuinely willing to take for a potential, maybe small, benefit? Blindly following protocols designed for younger, more resilient bodies, that can inadvertently rob you of energy, peace of mind, your independence, even precious years of quality living.
Yeah, it's so important to reiterate that point.
Yeah.
Saying no to certain tests isn't about ignoring your health, not at all. It means being deliberate, really weighing the potential benefit against the very real burden. Not every test brings clarity. Sometimes they lead you straight into this maze of overdiagnosis, anxiety, and treatments you didn't need that might do more harm than good.
Absolutely. We really encourage you, the listener, to take ownership of your health decisions. Talk openly with your doctor. Don't be afraid to ask critical questions. Ask things like, is this test really likely to change my outcome? Or is it just going to change the paperwork? Think about your time, your energy, your comfort. Because at this age, these are incredibly precious commodities. You've earned the right to live your life on your terms, empowered with knowledge, creating a life that's rich in meaning and joy and connection.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive. It's been really insightful.
Yes, thank you. And we genuinely love to hear from you all. Please leave a comment below. Maybe share one thing you learned today or how you plan to use this information in your life. Your thoughts really are important to us.
Definitely. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, found it helpful, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with others. Your support is what helps us continue creating good content to inform and hopefully inspire you. Thanks so much for listening.